Hello, all you Hellraisers. I got a special video for y'all today. It's a, it's a TV show. It's called Midnight Mass, and these are my talking points. And first of all, before I get into those talking points, each episode has a talking point, and we'll get to that. But first I want to talk about the three core characters that are in this show. You got Erin Green, just played by Kate Siegel. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. She plays in Hush, another Netflix horror movie, which is very, very good. I'd recommend go watching that. And then you got Riley Flynn, which is played by Zach Guilford. And then you got Father Paul Hill, which is played by Hamish Linklater. That's an interesting name. It's hard to pronounce, but those are the three main characters, the three core characters in the show that progress throughout the season, and they play a pivotal role in the plot, whether they are pushing it forward or serving their part in the plot. These characters grow. They grow on you as well. Those are also the three best characters in the show. You got my least favorite is Bev King. She is the epitome of what a Christian should not be. We'll get into that later. She's a where do I start? Well, anyways, let's get to the talking points. Those are the three characters. Maybe not all of them is going to be alive at the end of this show, but they do play a pivotal part. I'm not going to spoil the show for you because it's a good horror TV show. It's dramatic. It's got philosophical and theological arguments in it, and that's what we're about to talk about. So episode 1, I would say the number one talking point for me personally, it starts out with the character Riley Flynn, which is a drunk, so to speak. Well, he's not like a drunk, but he was a drunk enough to get in a wreck and kill somebody. Although that person wasn't wearing a seatbelt because she flew right through the window, she still died by the hands of a drunk driver. But he's not a necessarily bad character. But that incident made him, in my opinion, made him an atheist. He is an atheist. We find that out in the first episode. But the talking point I would like to point out was real dialogue. It felt like these people were actually talking to each other. It didn't feel like they were just reading off a script. I mean, that's also in play of they were being great actors and actresses. They did their job. They did their job well. And I would say that another topic would be that it hints at why does God allow evil. But that's the second episode topic. And the second episode really hits with that one. It really hits with that one. It dives deep in it when the priest Paul arrives on the island, because they're on this island and it's a small community, and they just get another priest in, and these are Catholics, so it's relatable because I used to, I grew up Catholic. I used to be an altar boy myself, so yeah, it's a great show. But anyways, the way the priest explains it is one of many arguments that Christians make to explain why does God not intervene with earthly matters or tragedies. Tragedies is something we not all the time have control over. Like, for instance, someone getting shot by a school shooter is different from Hurricane Katrina. Two different tragedies. One's more natural, and one made a decision. So, but someone pushed him to that decision. Remember that. But the way the priest describes it, definitely not how I would describe it, but it's a very good way. You can definitely tell whoever directed this or wrote this definitely has a religious background, and they did a really good job at it. Whoever directed this, keep making horror shows. This is a great show. But the priest says that he mentions suffering, okay? That suffering is the point, right? What breeds from suffering? Adversity. What breeds from adversity? Strength. You become stronger. So, say you pray for something, and you start getting misfortune, or you start struggling, you start suffering. Maybe because you asked for that thing, you have to go through suffering to get to your final destination. Basically, why do you fall? You get back up. The point is, you are a stronger, better man or woman at the end of that you know what I'm saying? So the point is to also not only just that, but to teach you a lesson, but to also show you something that you wasn't seeing before. And it really makes you think, because you're like, oh, now you're like a phoenix through the ashes. You know what I mean? You're rising through the ashes. That's one way to look at it. Now, how I would explain why God allows evil is because you can't have the full amount of good without the full amount of evil, because without the other you have complete chaos. Even if you had, it's like, say if you're in a complete good state, there's no such thing as a utopia, is what I'm saying, because you have to have a balance. And that's what basically what the priest is saying. You know, that's what I would say, is that you have to have a balance in the universe, naturally and universally. And another way to basically explain why God allows evil and suffering, go read the book of Job. Just go read the book of Job, and that will tell your answer. 100% will tell you your answer. Is the whole book of Job tells you that answer, and it explains it in fine detail. Now, it may not be the answer you want, but it's a hard pill to swallow. So that moves me forward to my third topic. And this is like, basically, this topic gets into play when they're talking. Sorry about that, folks. I was having some technical difficulties. Where was I? Topic 3, episode 3. It was in the middle of the episode, right? So, basically, it's basically explaining why we shouldn't have religion. This is what I picked up. Why we shouldn't have religion being taught in schools. Because if you have one religion, you have to teach all of them. Because that's only fair. You have to have a fairness. And if you're only going to teach Christianity, then you're going to offend a lot of people. And the Muslim, who's the sheriff, Sharif, I think his name, great actor, but his character does the off-the-wall stuff. But anyways, he makes a good point. He's like, why is my son being, bringing home a Bible from school? In my personal opinion, school should only be the embodiment of knowledge and wisdom, and that's what you should pursue in that. You can pursue that outside of school, but it's mainly academics. It should only be academics. Religion should be sought for personal growth and spiritual growth, and to further or find your North Star, pretty much. So that's where that there's a time and place for it. And that's basically what that episode to me was like. And my least favorite character, Bev King, great actress, basically is my least favorite character, and she's a bitch throughout the whole show. She's basically what a Christian should not be, or basically a hypocrite. And she has this self-righteous, loathing type of boastful attitude, and that's not okay to have in any religion, because it can breed extremes and radical ideas, which are not okay. It's okay to talk about it. And this show gets you to talk. It really does. It gets me down to my episode 4, which is basically kind of a two kind of thing. It's purpose and death, facing your own mortality. And this whole show kind of really, as the show gets nearer and nearer and nearer to the climax, it gets more and more heavy into that. And it's about basically Finn Riley and the other girl, Kate. They're talking about death and what happens after you die, and they both have, poetic views of it. It's a very poetic show, and it really makes you think. But at the end of the day, we don't know what's going to happen after we die. Is there another side? I would say so. I would say so because you have proof of the supernatural and ghost, but in the same sense, we don't even know how to explain that. But I would also argue that that's good enough evidence. But in the same sense, it just proves that they're at unrest. So maybe you just go in eternal sleep till God or whoever picks you up. I don't know. Which leads me to my fifth episode. The fifth episode, or my fifth point. Righteousness, and as God changed, so did morality. So basically the priest points this out, right? He's preaching, he's really getting into the sermon, he's really preaching, he's really heavy getting into it, and you can feel the emotion. It invokes emotion. And basically saying, this kind of points out that the Old Testament is drastically different than the New Testament. And why is that? Because the Old Testament is temporary laws, whereas the New Testament is grounded for what we have today. Except the Ten Commandments don't change. Those are the simplest rules to follow to being a better person. That's kind of like, those are like the 10 moral codes to follow. But it argues that, is God capable of change? Is he an omnipotent being capable of change? I would argue yes. But we don't know how he's changing. We don't know. But if God is changing, that means the morality is changing, because he is the epitome of morality. He is what is, because God is good and evil, but he chooses to be good. So you gotta, he lays down what morality is, and the priest really points that out. He really preaches that, and preaches righteousness and all that stuff, and it's really different. Now, the reason why the Old Testament's temporary is because God just creates civilization, or not civilization, but humans, and they're not civilized yet. You know what I mean? So they have to be guided, and God acts more as a parent in that one, as more as a philosopher in the New Testament, I would say. A wise man or wise being entity. Now, episode 6. I would say 3 topics. 1, how human panic dictates our choices. 2, family. Family is very important in the show. It's intertwined in the show, because at the end of the day, you have family. Who is your family? And then false prophet. At this point during the show, you really, the reason I say false prophet is because they're interpreting Revelations very literally, and I'm not trying to spoil it, but they interpret it very, very literally, which kind of translates into what the show is about, which is really cool. The person who directed this is basically going off of a very literal translation of it, and that's what the show is, somewhat, with philosophical and theological elements. And the reason I say false prophet is because in Revelation it speaks, beware of people who are doing miracles. When you start seeing people doing miracles, you automatically know, or you intuitively will know that the end time is near, because it warns that in Revelations. But it also says at the end of Revelations, Whoever so takes or gives to this prophecy shall face God's wrath. And it goes back. I'll go back to episode 3. The Muslim does say, about why it's been so changed and how much interpretations. I'm gonna add on to that. The reason why you have so much interpretations is because you have so many denominations in the church. Okay, there should only be one church, not just the denominations is basically Satan's already won. He's already crept into the church, and I'm talking about real life. He's already crept in the church. He's divided the church to where you have so many different rules and so many different whacked up kind of cults, cult type personalities that it makes Christianity a little bit less credible than what it was and should be. But the closest to the original text of the Bible you're going to ever get is the Catholic Bible, because it was the very first. It's what derived from the apostles, and that's how you got Catholicism, because the apostles, what they preached. And so Catholicism is pretty much the rawest of what you're going to get of God's teaching. And now, Human Panic, basically, when shit hits the fan during the show, people panic, and that makes for irrational decision making, which leads to a lot of characters' demises, and it's kind of poetic justice. It's very poetic justice in the end, which leads to my seventh episode, my 7th point: wrath and family. By the end of it, you're seeing the full embodiment of wrath and what, quote unquote, Bev Keene's version of Revelations is play out. And family, at the end of the day, you see family coming together and becoming one whole sound. What they should have been is when family come together, but it got unglued because of some of these characters playing out. Do not trust Bev King. She is not a trustworthy character. She's very shady, but it's a very good show. My conclusion is the show invokes raw emotion and poetic justice. That's my conclusion. It invoked, I would say some episodes that had me tearing up, because it invokes emotion, and that's what a good show's supposed to do, is invoke emotions and invoke conversations. And we need more shows like this. Click on Netflix, click like and subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what you thought about the show, if you watched it, and if you are watching, stay frosty.